Right, hopefully you can hear me.
Yes, we can, Mark, loud and clear.
And you can see my first slide.
Yes, we can.
Good. Right, good afternoon to everybody. My name's Mark Batcheldor. I've now worked for Hampshire for a number of years in various different departments, but I've basically been involved with what I'm going to be discussing today, which is our Batcheldor recycling facility, which I've been in contact or been involved in from the concept. Hampshire recognised that we needed something to deal with a few of our issues, and so therefore we heavily invested in this particular facility. I would normally do this presentation with Stuart Greedy for OCL, but I'm afraid to say he's on leave this week. So I'm having to use one of his presentations that we've recently used in discussions with some of our developers that do work in the county. So some of the carbon figures and savings, I might not be able to answer all the questions on because normally Stuart deals with all of those issues. But obviously I can try and go through that as much as possible. Right, so again, like a lot of local authorities, in June 2019, Hampshire declared a climate emergency. We set up a team called Hampshire 2050, which basically had a vision for the future to reducing carbon emissions in Hampshire. We basically, from that, they developed a climate strategy in which we undertook to lead, to empower, stimulate action on climate change within the county. Referencing the infrastructure and the emission giants, we all realise that these are a big ticket for moving the needle in ensuring that we try and reduce carbon as much as we possibly can. And as you can see from the slide there, the operation and maintenance of infrastructure assets is approximately 16% of total carbon emissions, which can rise up to about 53% when use with infrastructure is incorporated. Emissions in Hampshire, we used a baseline figure in 2019, and our figures were quite high. They were just under 40%. So we realised that in the industry and the commercial side and the transport side that we had to do something that would start to mitigate this. So to reduce these figures, Hampshire are looking to recycle and develop the transport infrastructure that we have at the present time, and also any new with as much recycled products as we possibly can, utilising cold and warm materials. And also by doing this, reduce vehicle movements as much as we can, which would obviously be a good carbon saving. Next slide. Right, there's the overview. Basically what this is, Hampshire, obviously looking to do climate change, developed the highways carbon reduction strategy, and this included the opening of the facility, which was basically open. Incentive as well. It wasn't just on the carbon side. We also were looking at, we have a big tar problem in Hampshire, so we were looking at trying to therefore then reduce our disposal costs with the tar bound material, and therefore then this gave us a great opportunity. The recycling methods and green materials that are now embedded on a day-to-day basis in all of our surfacing operations in Hampshire, and collaboratively initiative since the facility has been constructed, HEC and OCL look at other materials as well now. We feel that we've now got to a stage where we feel confident in utilising CBGM and CRBM within the county, that we could therefore then push other initiatives forward, and that would be along the lines of some of the cement that we use rather than using ordinary Portland, but that we use some carbon saving type cements. We're also looking at footway surface courses and how we can therefore then try and get materials from that. So it is a full recycling centre that we're developing here, that we will therefore then try to use as much of our network as possible for recycling. Right, so what are we trying to achieve in Hampshire? The following slide is here to help. So we're looking at carbon savings. So as part of our strategy utilising Batcheldor, we aim to manufacture as much cold recycled materials as possible to make the maximum use of the carbon savings that we get utilising what we would normally use, hot materials. We also do still use hot materials occasionally in some sites, but you know, our main objective is number one is cold. Cost savings. Well, the products are mainly aggregate based, and we use these from our own network, as I said, because we have the tar problem. So this contributes a lot to our cost savings. We haven't got any major aggregate quarries in the county, and we had limited asphalt plants as well. So by using materials from our own stock, as we call it, which is from our own network, this can reduce lorry movements and further carbon savings from that. Collaborative opportunities. We work in collaboration with Milestone and OCL in the development of planning, construction, and now the manufacture of all cold recycled materials. And we look at other opportunities to therefore use and develop other construction materials from our other construction sites. Part of the Here to Help is a toolkit. So we utilise this on evaluating where we think cold materials can be used, from our experience that we've had with them, because we've basically been using these now for at least 8 to 10 years. So it's not a new thing for us in Hampshire. So initially, each scheme in Hampshire, first considering is always going to be the cold recycled material and low carbon products. And we have collaboration with our contractors to ensure that the right materials are used in the right locations from these assessments, which can be via either a desktop study or we go do ECI site visits. We reference the design. We work up a matrix of alternative materials using the relevant British standards, which are now available, specification for highways works, and our own documents as well. We have our own technical guidance documents that we've developed just recently, and they've just been issued. And this helps us develop the design to the most suitable materials that can be used on our network. As part of the design, this needs to consider that Hampshire also recycles from its own network with reference to the aggregate side, and that we need to ensure that we don't get any wastage. And we find this with the materials that we've got, in the case that we don't have any wastage now, where lorries are left after a surfacing project, for example, and have to return back to their depots to therefore then dump the material. As far as we're concerned, any materials that are left from the remainder on site, they comes back to our depot for reprocessing. So we have no wastage. Planning, again, the planned maintenance have annual programs for carriageway resurfacing, haulage, footways, drainage works, and all of these we use recycled cold materials in now, and we optimise the resources as best as possible. We look to spread out now to other departments as well, because again we feel we've got the confidence in the materials, to try and get other sections of our other teams involved in the recycled products as well. So it's now going out for the whole of the county. So programming, and this is basically a balance between the supply and demand. We keep accurate records at the Batcheldor depot to ensure the capacities can be achieved. There are sometimes issues with logistics and changes in programs, as we all experience with weather, etc. Because we obviously, you know, just take today for example, we've got a bit of an issue down here with some high winds and heavy rain, which causes issues with us, with therefore then road space availability and obviously weather constraints. But having this plant is a major asset for us as far as we're concerned, because the plant is open all year round. So if we need it during the days or at weekends or at nights, the plant can be open to provide the materials for us. You know, we're not reliant on others in therefore then having to open up. And it's also very interesting to note that the material itself, which we tend to use more now, the CRBM, actually 17 tonnes of CRBM is equivalent to 20 tonnes of AC20 binder. So again, there's a bit more of a cost saving on there, but it has to be bought in with reference to our planning, because obviously when the contractors are looking to work out how much tonnage they need for a night shift or a day shift, they need to bear this in mind. Delivery, collaboration again with our suppliers. It seems to be a big word that everybody uses now, but it is, as everybody has said, it needs to be done. You need to collaborate with your suppliers and supporting subcontractors to reduce the amount of carbon emitted. And it's not just from the materials, it's also the transport. And we developed this with a circular first strategy. So materials that come into the depot. So if a contractor has got, say, for example, tar band on a particular site, he brings that in. We are looking to get that vehicle to return with one of our products. So again, there's less wastage, there's less time on the road with vehicles, etc., and increased carbon savings. Right, the low carbon asphalt. Hampshire obviously started off using the CBGM, or it was just HBMs then, with cement bound granular materials. We had quite a bit of knowledge of this when we started up, so much so that we actually developed our own specification clause for it. Although we used TRL 611 for design purposes, we felt that we needed our own specification clause. But we did find a few issues with using this material, in a sense of weather conditions did dictate where and when we could use it. So we've now moved over to the CRBM, which is a cold recycled bound material, which again loses a bit less cement, so that's a bit of more of a carbon saving, and is just less susceptible to the weather. We've moved away now from the 894 clause because we believe that what we've got now in the specification for highways works, clause 948, and the BS of 9228, and that's for the CRBM, and the clause 821 and 822 and BS 9227 for the CBGM is perfectly adequate for what we need to do and how we specify materials. To go with that now, all of our standard details have all got this cold recycled material in. So whether it be footway, drainage, trench repairs, carriageway resurfacing, it's in all of our standard details. As I mentioned earlier, Hampshire has its own technical guidance documents, 6.1 and 6.2, with 6.1 being the pavement foundation design and 6.2 being the flexible and rigid pavement design. And it's also included in our Hampshire guidance document for carriageway surfacing options, and it is the #1 preferred option. So as I said, it is on a day-to-day basis, it is our preferred option. This is just a quick slide just to show the differences between a traditional road design. It states OCL road design, but obviously we work with them. But yeah, though this is what we look at. You can actually reduce the amount of constructional depth by utilising some of this material if used in the right places. So we use this as just an indicator. You see there on the surface course, it says remains hot. We don't use hot anymore. This is a bit of an old slide. And we use warm asphalts now. So, we don't, it's very unusual for us to use hot. I'm just going to go through quickly a few case studies. Obviously, this is Council carriageway haulching and footway campaigns. We use it, as I say, we use it a lot on our network. It is now mainly CRBM that we use. And as you can sort of see from the figures there, Mitchell Dev has supplied over 25,000 tonnes of CRBM now, which has avoided disposal costs as well as reducing the need for primary aggregates. And it uses our aggregates from our network. It's also reduced the carbon from transport mileage. And you can also see there that the approximate savings there that we're achieving, which is around about 500 tonnes of CO2 a year compared to traditional asphalts. Covington Bypass, it was basically one of our major capital schemes we've had now constructed in the south of the county, where Hampshire showed its support with the design and construction of the pavements utilising these materials. And for this particular scheme, again, we used 14,000 tonnes of CRBM in the carriageway and 4,500 tonnes of CBGM on the footways. So you can sort of see that some of our major schemes now we're looking to produce and utilise the material. Last case study, this is a development in the north of the county, Wellesley in Aldershot, by one of our developers, Granger. Again, this is working collaboratively with a developer here, as well as our own teams. And what we came up with here was arrived at an integrated circular solution for the reuse of waste from the existing infrastructure that was on site. So they had a bit of a problem here. Again, they had a lot of materials there. There was hazardous tar in there. And what we did was we helped them out in, rather than sending this off to disposal, which I think it was in the region of millions it would have cost them at the end of the day. We actually worked with them and utilising these materials. We've therefore then worked up a circular economy such that, again, the materials came into us. It was processed in our Batcheldor depot, and is still being processed in our Batcheldor depot, and therefore then was going back out onto their carriageway and their footways. It basically, as we said, it is like a quarry. It was their network. It was the old network there, and we utilised the aggregate to basically recycle. And obviously the carbon savings there were because of the lorry movements, again, with also the cold recycled materials. And as I say, we just had this recently, a developers day, where we sat down with local consultants and developers and basically went through them with these particular materials that we're utilising and manufacturing at Batcheldor, to give them an indication and give them some confidence that Hampshire are quite happy with utilising these materials, and that if they wish to use them, there is a savings, and it would be a savings for them as well as for us, but it would also give them good carbon and green features with reference to any future developments that they were doing. So we have sort of presented it to them and given them an indication of what we're looking and trying to achieve. And yeah, again, thanks everybody for listening to me. As I say, it is very important that Hampshire therefore can continue with this. Obviously, we're going to be under financial constraints as anybody else is, but yeah, we're looking at this as being possibly one of our future, and keep this going, because as I say, we can see that there is opportunities from recycling, and it isn't just with the materials that we're developing at the present time. There will be future development with other materials as well. So yeah, if there are any questions, by all means, I'm here to answer them.
Thanks, Mark. Excellent presentation. That I just want to start the ball rolling with questions, and it's a kind of open question really on your focus on cold recycled materials. Did you find any particular pushback on that as you made the transition from working from hot to cold?
No, we've got, as far as we're concerned, we've got a very good client here basis. As everybody else has explained, any innovations, there's likely to be failures. Mm-hmm. And on that basis, we accepted, which is why we've now sort of moved over to the cold recycled rather than the cement bound, because we did find that there was some issues with that type of material. We were going for a risk. The risk initially was obviously utilising this, which is why we started off utilising it on footways first before we went into carriageways. Mm-hmm. But now we feel a bit more confident with the material. There is a large program or surfacing program that we have every year, and the majority of the binder courses on that will be CRBM. So we feel that we have confidence in it, and as I say, we're happy now even to go to our developers that are coming into the county to get them to use the materials as well, because it gives them green features as well as the carbon savings as well. Yeah. So we feel confident with that.
One question, interesting you say about their about innovations and potential for failure because people are not used to it. So we've had a question asked about how you manage the warranty on the works, because there is the potential for contractors to blame materials rather than as they don't supply themselves. So how do you manage the warranty on these materials?
Well, what we tend to do, as I say, is we do collaboration with everybody. So it's not just a case of people coming to us and saying, we need a warranty on this. There isn't a warranty. we are happy with the materials. We're happy with the specifications. As long as they are manufactured to those specifications, we have no problems with that. You know, we're quite happy to accept that material because we work with OCL, who are providing that material. So, you know, they have all the testing carried out on it. So on a weekly, sometimes on a monthly, depending on what the tests are. So we keep very close liaison groups going with them. And if a developer or one of our other teams wishes to have help and guidance on that, the likes of myself that have been involved with this, the likes of Stuart, you know, we get together, we can talk with them. So there isn't really a warranty required as such, as far as we're concerned. You know, it to us now, cold materials are as good as hot materials. So we have no issues with that at all.
Okay, that's good. That's good. I've also had a question about the CRBM material. Is that recycled in situ, or does it take place at the Micheldever plant and then be brought back to site?
We do everything. We don't do in situ. Everything comes back to the plant. We have tried with certain companies to do in situ, but we had a lot of issues with stand down time when services were hit and things like this. So as far as we're concerned, a lot of our stuff now is we prefer it to come back, which gives the opportunity for whatever reconstruction, or whether it be just planing out the surface course and binder courses. If there are any issues, then we can then, because I say to actually manufacture the material, it is very quick. You know, if a lorry came in to our depot like now, for example, within 15 minutes he'll be loaded up and going back out again.
Wow.
So we can actually control, you know, there is an ordering system, but we can control how that material goes in and goes out. And it doesn't take that long for a lorry to come in and be turned around to go back out again. So again, with an asphalt plant where you get lorries waiting around, you can have your lorries in there for hours sometimes, waiting for the plant to actually distribute the material and put them in the back of the lorries. We don't have that problem. There is, as I say, there is an ordering system so that doesn't actually occur. So there are time slots. But, you know, if you suddenly needed material and you didn't know, obviously today, for example, the classic example, where the weather's coming in, you don't know whether you want it in the morning or the afternoon. You know, we can fluctuate the time and manufacture of that, or OCL can fluctuate the time and manufacture of that. So it can go out at any time that you want. And as I say, it's available 24/7 to a certain extent to us. You know, as it's our own plant, we can dictate that with OCL, and we can turn around and say, right, if you want it as a night scheme or want it weekends or a Sunday afternoon, for example, you know, the material can be manufactured.
Yeah, and just a final question, Mark. How willing have developers been to use these materials?
We're just waiting to hear the feedback, because as I say, we only had it about a month ago now. We had the developer day. Obviously Grainger, they've come fully on board because they could see the massive savings, and it was in the millions for disposal, so they could see the benefits from it. We've had a bit of interest come in the last couple of weeks, or OCL have had some interest in that. But as I say, it is in our standard details now. So for a developer to actually, and our technical guidance notes, for a developer doing a design now, and he goes to the standard details, that's what's in the standard details. So if he wishes to go to another product, he would have to come for a departure, as far as we're concerned.
Mark, that's absolutely excellent. Thank you very, very much for that, and thanks for stepping in as we had the problems with technology. So thank you very, very much. Big round of applause.